Welcome to the Jamodi podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it.
The Jamodi podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products.
I'm so glad you brought up the turnaround that you had there, because it is incredible. I've thought for a long time that, going from my junior year, we won, I think, 15 games, but we were about to be really good, lose our entire program. Coach Drew comes in. We only have 6 scholarship players, and we won 8 games. We were 8-21, but that was like a huge success, like huge turnaround. Coach, I've never heard of 1 win to 31. How do you make that change? Because there's going to be a lot of coaches this year that are taking over programs. Usually when you're taking over a program, it's rarely because it was such a great place, and you're usually taking something that has to be turned around. How'd you do that?
And, when you look at that turnaround, it's a complete God thing, right? I felt like we were very blessed in so many ways. So we had just lost in the national championship game at Talladega College, in the NAI in Alabama. And, this job, it came open and had heard that the administration really, really wanted to win. And so the president, Dr. Kent Smith, that hired me, right, like I'm going on the interview, and I almost don't even go on the interview because I'm like, man, like, I just don't think this is going to work. And like, again, had preconceived notions of what it was. And literally, so I'm like, all right, so go on the interview. Man, I'm going to his house for dinner that night, and it's supposed to be an hour and a half meeting. And we stayed up and talked for literally like over 5 hours. And so I think at the college level, administrations really do help you win championships. We have everything we need here to compete at a high level. And so, it's been a complete team effort. But, our first day on campus, John Warren, who I mentioned a while ago, right? So we're in open gym. We're watching this team, and man, it is not a good open gym. And so I look over at him, and I'm like, Coach, what have you done, dude? I said, man,
I needed to see this open gym before my meeting.
Absolutely, I would not have taken the job, right? So I'm like, Coach, do you think we can call Dega back and see if they'll hire us back, man? Like this is crazy. So we end up, only keeping one guy off of off of that roster, and he started off in our JV program and worked his way back up. For me, it was important to just bring in guys that were about what we were about. Like, obviously, there's a certain amount of talent that you have to have, right? Like, it doesn't matter how good of a coach you are or how good of a coach you think you are. If you don't have really good players, you're not winning anything, right? And so obviously we have really good players, but yeah, I think just again, like, I think what we do best is just absolutely hold guys accountable to what is important to us.
I'm not trying to diminish at all what you did going from 1 to 31, but to your point, I do think a brand new roster helps, and not just brand new in like good players, but ones that don't have the stank of 1 or 0, because that losing like that over a long period of time, mentally, what does that do to you? Like, do you truly? I think belief is important. You're gonna lose some games, but the belief that we can win every game, like, you got to have that, and that goes back to obviously culture, your standards or pillars, but retooling like that. Any advice to coaches that maybe at the high school level they can't let everybody go? They can't. They inherit this group, and they're at an open gym coach, and they're like, "What have I done?" What advice do you have? Maybe they can't go 1 to 31 because they can't get a brand new group, but how do you flip that around in a small amount of time? What are some steps?
Like, for me, I do think this. I think so many coaches, with how society is, like, They're scared to be themselves. Right. And so I think, like, right, as coaches, we all have different strengths. We have, right, different weaknesses. But man, I think my advice would be be unapologetically you. Right. I think that's so important, because if you're not yourself, if you're doing things you don't believe in, right, your players are going to see through that. Yeah. And then like we talked about, right, like I know for me, I think I was a very so I got hired as a head coach at 27 years old, right? And I was probably had some good years, had some bad years. The first 5-6 years I was able to be a head coach. I think I was very average because I didn't have an identity. And I think for me, my advice would be, right, like, who do you want to be, right? Like, basketball wise, but like we're talking about, what are the standards that you have for your program? You can't be great at everything. It's impossible. So pick the things, right, that you want to be great at basketball wise. Pick the things, the characteristics, the traits that you think, right, make a great program, and make everything about those few things.
Man, Coach, I think that's really good. Like a how to turn around a program. Like, you nailed it right there. Be yourself. So, like, do the work to where you know who you are, and then be unapologetically yourself. Like, and not trying to be someone else, which the comparison game, so often we think only players go through that. Man, I think coaches go through that too. Like, I compare myself to the guys down the road from here, even at our level. Like, man, how do they Midland Christian just keeps winning, Ryburn over there. Like, so I do that. And then identity, create an identity. Our program represents this, something that your guys on the floor, off the floor can hang their hat on. When you watch a team and you're done playing, you go, I just don't know what they were trying to do. Like, I don't know what they're like. What are they about? Like, what do they rely on as a team? Every night when you play these guys, like when I play you, golly, defensively, they're going to be tough. They're going to move their feet. They're going to be one hand length away on their closeouts. Like, we got to be prepared for this. I think having an identity as a coach, and then maybe a third thing, especially at the high school level, is you mentioned society and today, and how I think part of it is we want things now. And it may take time. Man, Coach, that circles back to the beginning, though. What you said is admin. Like, will your admin allow you to have the time to truly turn things around? Because 1 in 31 doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes even for Scott Drew, it was 4 years until they made the tournament again. So knowing what that admin in those meetings, what they expect from you, obviously that they want to win and they'll support you. Coach, good stuff there.
Yeah, no, thank you. And, and I, really give our administration so much credit for what we've been able to do. And I think so much of that was just going through the interview process. Like, I think, again, you have to really be you, because as a coach, I think the worst thing you can do is tell people what they want to hear, and you get to a place and it's not a good fit. I know that's happened in my career. And so now I kind of almost err on the other side, right? Like, I'm going to be real honest about what my strengths are. I'm going to be real honest about what my perceived weaknesses are and what my weaknesses actually are. I mean, I want to address those things up front. And so I'm very thankful to be at a place that, for good or bad, lets me be me.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.